Chapter 61. This venerable one is really great. The two bros stopped bickering and rose to their feet at the same time. The person in front of them had an extremely dignified air. Chu Wanning stared for a moment before he finally reacted, nodding. That's right. Who are you? Chu Wanning had been unruly since birth, and even though Madame Wang had taught him etiquette over and over again, he'd never taken it to heart. So when he asked for other people's names, he never used honorifics, and neither did he offer his own name first. It was honestly quite rude. However, Moran knew that this wasn't someone who would stoop to Chu Wanning's level. After all, this was... I am a disciple of Rufang's sect, Wangxi. As expected, the young man was calm and composed, and he didn't get upset. Below his dark, black brows were a pair of eyes that shone like scattered starlight, exceptionally bright and piercing. May I inquire after your name as well? Wangxi? Chu Wanning frowned, muttering. Never heard of that name before. Must not have much of a reputation. His mutter wasn't loud, but there was no way anyone who wasn't hard of hearing could have missed that. Thus, Moran discreetly tugged on Chu Wanning's sleeve to get him to show some restraint before masking the emotions in his own eyes and smiling lightly. I am Moran of Xixing Peak, and the one beside me is my ill-mannered little brother, Chu Wanning. Chu Wanning pulled away, throwing him a fierce glare. Don't touch me, who's your little brother? Oh, Chu Wanning, you... Moran sighed. He turned to Wangxi, eyes smiling along with his lips. My younger brother is a bit stubborn. Please don't mind him, Yeshong. It wasn't that he'd suddenly decided to change his entire attitude and start being courteous about Chu Wanning. Rather, it was that Wangxi was an outstanding genius among his peers. Although Wangxi had yet to make a name for himself in their previous lifetime, Wangxi had been second only to Chu Wanning in the entire cultivation world. Heaven knew how greatly Moran had suffered because of Wangxi in his previous life. To see him after his rebirth, still sharp as a knife's edge, an upright hero, pure and noble. Even if he couldn't get into Wangxi's good graces, at the very least, Moran never again wanted to face him as an opponent. It was already a lot having Chu Wanning beat him black and blue. If Wangxi was added to the mix, how could he ever live in peace? Wangxi was a man of few words, so after a brief, polite exchange, he returned to his own residence. As soon as he left, Moran's expression reverted to his annoying as hell, shit-eating grin. He elbowed Chu Wanning. What do you think? What do I think about what? That person, Moran replied. You like him? Think he's good looking? Chu Wanning gave him a befuddled look and scoffed. Weirdo. Moran laughed. The four of us are living in the same courtyard, so we'll run into each other around every corner. You should be glad that he's the one we're living with. Chu Wanning was puzzled. The way you talk, it sounds like you know him already. Of course, Moran couldn't tell him the truth, so he returned to his usual clownery. Nope, I don't know him, but I judge people by their faces. He's good looking, so I like him a whole lot. Disgusting. Chu Wanning spat. Moran laughed, waving his hand as he turned around and flipping off an offensive gesture at Chu Wanning behind his back. He then lazily walked back to his own little stone house. He barred the door with a clunk, shutting all of Chu Wanning's cursing and swearing outside. The morning of the next day, Moran got up early. Their hosts had delayed cultivation practice for 3 days, so they could grow accustomed to life at Peach Blossom Springs. Moran freshened himself up and saw that Wangxi had already left on his own and that the other two hadn't woken up yet. So, he went for a solitary stroll through the streets. Within the thin layer of morning fog, quite a few cultivators glided by with light steps, rushing to their individual cultivation grounds. Moran passed by a breakfast stall and saw a fresh pot of steam-fried buns. He He thought of his little Shidi, who was all sick, and walked over. "I'll take 8 fried buns and 1 bowl of sweet congee to go, Miss Shopkeep." The feathered stall owner didn't even lift her head to reply. "That will be 6 feathers." Moran stared blankly. 6 what? 6 feathers. So, am I supposed to go find a chicken and pluck a couple of its pinions? The feathered shopkeeper raised her eyes to give him a look. "No feathers, and you still want food? Go away, get lost." Caught between annoyance and amusement, Moran was about to ask again when a familiar voice came from behind him. A hand wrapped in bandages reached out with 6 glimmering, resplendent golden feathers pinched between its fingers. "Here, Miss Shopkeep, I'll pay for it." The feathered shopkeep took the feathers and, not wanting to waste any more time, turned to pack up the breakfast to go. Moran turned his head to see Ye Wangxi standing by his side, tall and handsome, his presence elegant. "Thank you very much." Moran grabbed the steaming, piping hot buns and the sweet congee and went to walk alongside Ye Wangxi. "If I hadn't run into you today, I'm afraid we might have gone hungry." "No worries," Ye Wangxi said. "Miss 18 doesn't have the best memory, and she always forgets to give newcomers some feathers. I ran into you by chance, so it's no skin off my back. Don't worry about it." "Do you need these feathers to do business in Peach Blossom Springs?" "Yes." "Where do the feathers come from?" "They're plucked." Plucked. Moran was slightly dumbfounded. These feathers really were plucked straight off the bodies of birds? Wouldn't the local birds end up completely bald? Ye Wangxi glanced at his shocked face with amusement. "What are you imagining? In Peach Blossom Springs, there's a place called the Ancestral Abyss. Legend has it that it was where the vermilion bird ascended. The bottom of the abyss is filled with roaring flames. It's hot beyond measure and difficult to endure. Not a single inch of grass can grow there, and no beasts can survive it either." As Moran listened to his description, his mind went to the blood-red sky that he'd seen in the distance when he passed through the city outskirts the day before. Is the abyss near the northern end of the city? You're correct. What does that have to do with the feathers? It's like this. Although no other creatures can survive in the vicinity of the Ancestral Abyss, a flock of frenzied demon owls lives within it. They make their nests with the fire, hiding during the day, and come out at night. The feathered tribe uses their feathers to refine their cultivation. So that's how it is. Moran grinned. No wonder they want to trade goods for feathers. But you must be mindful, when the demon owls come out at night, their feathers turn into the ordinary sort, no different from those of other owls. Even if you catch them then, they won't be of any use. Only at daybreak every day, when the sun rises in the east, will the owl flock return to the Ancestral Abyss, in the hundreds and thousands. The moment right before they enter the abyss, their feathers again turn gold, and only those have any value. Haha, isn't it basically just mandatory Qigong practice? If your skills are subpar, then you'll fall in and get barbecued. But if you don't harvest feathers, then you'll probably starve to death. Moran couldn't help but click his tongue. That's pretty rough. Are you perhaps not good at Qigong? Asked Ye Wangxi. Moran chuckled. Just so. That won't do. The owl's movements are swift and violent, no slower than those of a falcon or hawk. If you don't practice diligently, then you'll go hungry after a couple of days. I see. Seeing Moran lost in thought, Ye Wangxi sighed. I've acquired quite a few feathers, and for the time being, I have no shortage thereof. If the 3 of you need some, just ask me. Moran waved his hand again, smiling. How could we do that? Let's just count this as an initial loan of 6 feathers from you to me. I'm going to go eat some food, but if I can harvest some feathers tomorrow, I'll pay you back. Thanks a lot. Moran bade farewell to Ye Wangxi, then carried the congee and buns back to the courtyard. Chu Wanning's residence was empty. He'd probably woken up and gotten bored, then gone out for a stroll. So, Moran went to Chu Wanning's bamboo house. Chu Wanning wasn't awake yet. Moran set the congee and steam-fried buns on the table, then went to his bedside, where he lowered his head to take a look at him. All of a sudden, a familiar feeling washed over him. This little Shidi's appearance as he slept. Why did it seem so similar to a certain someone? Moran couldn't remember who his Shidi resembled. He only had a fuzzy impression of someone else who slept like this. Someone who always curled up into a ball on their bed, cheeks pillowed on folded hands. Exactly who was it? While Moran was busy getting lost in his thoughts, Chu Wanning woke up. Chu Wanning rolled over and saw the person beside his bed, at which he suddenly opened his eyes wide. Moran? How many times have I told you? You should call me Shishong. Moran ruffled his hair a bit, then felt his forehead to take his temperature. It seems like your fever's broken. Come on, get up and eat some food. Eat food. The child on the bed repeated blankly, his messy hair making his face look even cuter. Look at how your Shishong cares about you. I got up early to go buy breakfast. You should eat while it's hot. Chu Wanning got off the bed, dressed in his spotlessly white inner robes, and walked toward the dining table. On top of the dining table, there were steam-fried buns with thin skins and crispy bottoms, with jade green slivers of chopped green onion and black sesame scattered over them, all placed on a lotus leaf. Next to the buns, there was a small bowl of longan and osmanthus congee. It was soft and sticky, but simultaneously thick and rich, as well as piping hot, with clouds of steam rising from it. The usually strong and steadfast Yuhang elder was suddenly unsure of himself. For me? Huh? Did you buy all this for me? Moran was stunned for a second. Sure did. He watched Chu Wanning, who looked hesitant and unsure. Moran considered this and smiled. Hurry and eat before it gets cold. Although Chu Wanning had been part of Xisheng Peak for many years and everyone respected him, almost no one ate with him due to his icy, stiff personality. They were even less likely to bring him a serving of breakfast from the dining hall. Sometimes he watched the disciples taking care of each other, and though he was unwilling to admit it, he couldn't stop his heart from being slightly jealous. And so, faced with this bowl of porridge and a couple of buns, he couldn't bring himself to actually eat them. A long while passed in silence. Moran watched Chu Wanning sitting on the small stool, staring at the food in front of him and not moving his chopsticks, and wondered if the food might not be to his taste. What's wrong? Moran asked. Is it too greasy for you? Chu Wanning looked back at Moran mutely and shook his head. He picked up his spoon and scooped up a mouthful of congee. After he blew on it, he took a careful sip. If he was still the beautiful, frigid, and distant Chu Zongshe he usually was, eating congee in this manner would have made him seem elegant and refined, as though he was practicing restraint. In the body of a child, he just looked a little awkward and pitiful. Moran misinterpreted his hesitation. Do you not like long guns? You can pick them out and leave them by the side then. No biggie. No. The little Shidi's face wasn't too expressive, but when he looked toward Moran again, his crow-black eyes were soft. I like it. Oh. That's good then. I worried that you didn't. Chu Wanning's thick curtain of lashes swept downward. I like it, he repeated quietly. No one's ever taken care of me like this before. He lifted his eyes to glance at Moran. When he spoke again, it was earnestly. Thank you very much, Shishong. Moran hadn't expected him to say something like that, and he was left feeling stunned. He wasn't a naturally kind person, and he didn't particularly like kids. He only treated Xia Sini well, because his skills were unusually good for his young age, and he seemed like a junior worth befriending. Moran had only been thinking practically, but when he was met with a Chu Wanning who treated this matter so sincerely, he found himself blushing with shame. However, he also thought there was something a little odd about what his Shidi had said. After waving his hand to tell Chu Wanning that he didn't require thanks, Moran asked, "Has nobody ever bought you breakfast before?" Chu Wanning nodded expressionlessly. Do the Chuanji elders' disciple not know how to look after one another or something? I don't hang out with them much. What about before you came to the sect? When you lived at your old house, did your mom and dad? Moran stopped, unable to continue that sentence. His little Shidi was quick-witted and pure as snow. What sort of parents would have the heart to leave that kind of kid on top of a mountain to cultivate and never come back to visit him ever again? It seemed like Xia Sini had suffered the same experiences as Shimei and himself. As expected, Chu Wanning said calmly, "My parents are no longer around, and I didn't have any other relatives, so there was nobody to look after me." Moran was silent for a long while before he let out a big sigh. Originally, I just wanted to be friends with this kid because 1, his cultivation level is quite high, and 2, he's steady and mature, unlike the typical rowdy ankle biter. Who would have thought that we came from the same background? When Moran looked at the little Shidi in front of him, he found himself thinking of his own childhood and remembering those years that had been rife with bitterness and hardships. A surge of emotion rushed through his chest and filled him with sympathy and a sense of intimacy. Suddenly he said, "There was nobody to take care of you before, but from now on there will be. You've already called me your shishong, so from here on out I'll take care of you properly." It seemed like Chu Wanning hadn't expected him to say this, and he was a bit surprised. After a while, his features melted slowly into a tiny smile. "You'll take care of me?" If you stick with me from now on, I'll teach you meditation and sword techniques." Chu Wanning's grin widened. "You'll teach me meditation and sword techniques?" Moran misinterpreted his expression and scratched his head. "Don't make fun of me. I know that your cultivation level is already pretty good, but you're still young and you have lots to learn. There's a lot of disciples under the Chuanji elder, and he probably isn't able to train you individually. What's wrong with learning a bit from me? I have a holy weapon, you know." Chu Wanning was silent for a moment. "I wasn't making fun of you," he said finally. "I think you're great." Chu Wanning would never have been able to say something like that before. However, ever since his body had become smaller, it seemed that his personality had grown gentler and softer as well. It was as if he had been hiding under a cloak of darkness and could finally remove his rock-hard mask. As for Moran, although he'd lived through 2 lifetimes, this was the first time someone had praised him like this and said, "You're great." Even though the one praising him was just a little kid, he was still at a loss as to how to respond, overwhelmed as he was by the pleasant surprise. For a while, Moran could do nothing but sputter. His skin, which had always been as thick as city walls, flushed red. He repeated what had been said to him, stuttering, I'm great? You really think I'm great?" Suddenly, Moran vaguely recalled that when he was young, he had wanted to be a good person, but that small, gentle wish of his, much like all of his other little wishes. "When I grow up, I want to ask Li Zizi from the makeup store to marry me. When I have money, I want to eat pancake fritters every day. If I could have just 2 pieces of barbecued meat for every meal, I wouldn't trade it even for immortality." All of it, in the end, had become nothing more than memories, blown away by the wind and scattered in the snow.